I mean, I was always against animal cruelty, and I basically just realized that even though it's really not highlighted that the dairy and egg industries also kill and torture animals, I just made the connection that they do. You know, I was starting to become a teenager myself and starting to understand how the female body works and how the reproductive system works. And I realized that the dairy and egg industries are nothing more than complete exploitation of the female reproductive system. And I didn't want any part of that. So I just, I realized like, no, 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 there's no way to have milk or eggs without killing and hurting animals. And so that was the principle that I've always lived by. And I just dropped it. I was like, well, I'm not going to support this. And I dropped those foods from my diet immediately. It was not hard, but that was in the 90s basically. And I just packed my lunch and I went to school. My mom made me delicious, healthy lunches to bring to school. So that was normal for me to just go to school with a nice, healthy vegetarian lunch. There was a few times where other kids didn't understand and they would try to like bring their, meat lunches close to me. And one of the biggest things I don't think people understand is that that's not tempting, it's disgusting. Like it's not it's not like you're gonna like tempt me to eat that because I don't want to eat that. I don't want to be near it. I don't want to smell it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to touch it. And um, like other kids didn't really understand. The teachers even didn't completely understand some of the time. So, sometimes there would be like class pizza day or something like that, and I would just refrain from eating it. I would just eat my normal lunch, which was better anyways. So it wasn't really difficult. Um, I didn't. To me, it was just normal and natural. I didn't really find anything like challenging personally, but I guess maybe to others it would seem that way, but to me it just seemed normal. Yeah, so she's like amazing. She's actually celebrating 52 years of being veg. Uh, I think this month she's celebrating 52 years. So she's vegan now and she has been for years, and she went vegetarian, um, yeah, 52 years ago. And in her case, it was, like a similar thing, but in a different decade. So for me, I just made the connection about dairy and eggs. And for her, she came from a big family with lots of siblings, and her mom was preparing preparing is a euphemism. Her mom was killing a lobster. And for her, it was seeing the living lobster being boiled alive and hearing the sound that happens. Um, that was the moment for her where she was like, hang on a second, I'm not doing this anymore. And so it was a lot more difficult for her, in the late 60s, um, to be doing this, because vegetarianism wasn't really even very popular at that point. And she was the only one in her big family to be a vegetarian. So she really paved the way for myself and a lot of other people. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people that don't know that cows only make milk when they have a baby. They think cows just make milk. They don't realize it's the exact same process as with any other mammal, where the cow has to be pregnant, give birth, and then start producing milk the same way a human female does. There's people that think that animals aren't sentient. They think animals just roll around and become food and they're happy with it. Like there's so many people that have no idea what's going on, and they sometimes they just don't know. Sometimes they're willfully ignorant because they don't want to have to change what they are doing to contribute to that. So we're absolutely being deceived. We're being told, oh, well, this was a grass-fed animal, so that makes it okay. Or, oh, this is a free-range animal, so that makes it okay. Not realizing that has nothing to do with the well-being of the animal. They're still being kept alive for a very short amount of time in extremely dangerous, uncomfortable conditions, and then slaughtered when they're still babies. So it's an absolute deception. Even the price point on it is a deception, because the only reason it's so artificially affordable is because it's subsidized with tax dollars. So it's it's really an amazing deception that everybody has fallen for, and the very few people, the very small percentage of the global human population that actually realize this are vegan. I haven't attended one. I've been invited to a few of them in Toronto and LA. The timing never worked out where I was actually in that city on the day of the vigil. I have to say, you know, I will attend, but this is the kind of thing where I feel it's important for me to bring non-vegans to these vigils, because as vegans, we know this is happening. We're aware of it. We've seen it. Nothing phases us, because that's why we're vegan, because we know how horrible it is. And the premise of the vigil is to just give these animals that have never known love or kindness in their lives a moment of recognition and kindness before they are ultimately going to be killed. And there's nothing we can do to stop that except just recognize them, look them in the eye, tell them I'm sorry, and give them a little drink of water, because they're kept in these insanely freezing cold, boiling hot conditions, cramped on top of each other, limbs breaking off, dehydrated, dying along the way, kept in their feces, kept on top of the corpses of their cellmates. It's absolutely, absolutely horrific what they go through. And the vigils are essentially just all we can possibly do to apologize to them. And I know ultimately it doesn't change the outcome, but hopefully by, you know, exposing this to more people will recognize, like, oh, wait a second, hang on, these animals are screaming and terrified and in pain. It's not a processing plant, it's a slaughterhouse. They're killing millions of living beings every single day. So I think that these vigils are so, so important, because people don't have to see this. You know, they can easily go and buy food and not think about it, but they should see it, because they're contributing to it. Funny enough, Michael wrote the lyrics to some of these songs, but he's, you know, he's very well aware of these things, like all these issues too. And um, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the hunt saboteurs, the hunt sabs.
Yeah.
And if you follow them, it's just absolutely heartbreaking and outrageous. And they are feet on the ground, grassroots, doing the work that needs to be done to stop these people from fox hunting, from badger cull. Like it's just absolutely horrifying what people will accept as sport or as normal.
Yeah.
I just I sometimes I see these things and I can't wrap my head around how. So okay, so a bunch of insecure men get on horses, which is already abuse to ride the horse, and then they use dogs, so they're exploiting the dogs as well, to then go kill a fox. So that, and not just kill, terrify, chase. You know, this could be a mother fox who was out trying to get food for her cubs back in the den, chase them and then tear them apart. Like it's absolutely fucking horrifying what people do to animals on this planet for absolutely no reason. You want to have a sport, go play basketball, go play hockey, soccer, baseball, football, whatever. Go do something with yourself. Leave animals alone. It's absolutely disgusting. There's no reason that anybody should be allowed to do that. And quite often they're not allowed to do that, and they do it anyways. And the hunt sabs help to expose people who are doing this illegally. And I really, really respect the hunt sabs because they are attacked. They have their vehicles destroyed. They're physically injured by the hunters, and they still go out there and put themselves on the line for the animals. So I really have to thank them. I think it is because, I mean, if we want to look at this just from a general perspective, children are not raised. If you look at a baby around a bunny or around a cat or a dog, if you just look at any baby when they see an animal, they're in awe, they're laughing, they're smiling, they think it's cool. They're like, wow, what's that? They're curious. The same way, you know, little kids like stare at you because they're just taking it all in. This is the first time they're seeing another human adult or seeing everything clearly. Their eyesight's developing. They're able to now take in new colors and textures and see the beautiful wings of a bird or the nice soft fur of a cat. And they look at animals and they have love and admiration for animals. And then somewhere along the way, we are taught that actually we don't love and admire animals, we just exploit and kill them. And that's good and that's normal. And I think that that kind of upbringing is what makes people, it becomes normal. It just becomes a daily routine, it becomes part of their habits, and they just don't understand why there's anything wrong with it. You know, their parents did it, they do it, they don't see anything wrong with it. And I get that, and that's not their fault, but that doesn't mean that it's not commendable to recognize that it's wrong now and change now. And so I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the world that do mean to cause pain and sorrow to other humans, to themselves, to animals, and they do that by, you know, contributing to the food industries that kill animals, or by fishing, or by hunting. And you know, they have all sorts of greenwashing excuses up their sleeves to make it seem like they're not doing it for, you know, any intentionally damaging way. But at the end of the day, the same excuse that they use, like, oh, well, we're the top of the food chain. Okay, yeah, we're the most advanced species when it comes to technology, and we now have the technology to not need to eat any animal products. We don't need to hunt. We don't need to fish. We don't need to do that. We're advanced. We're smart. So we're beyond this now. We've evolved past this. And I think it's just time that everybody accepts that and we just move away from using animals in anything.
Yeah.
Completely unnecessary. Yeah, I mean, I was already friends with Angela at that point, and she's vegan as well, and she's, you know, very aware of what goes on with animals, and I thought it was great. I was really happy to see that. I love the song title. We've never played that one live, but we've jammed it at rehearsal, and it's just so much fun to play that song because I connect with it so much, and I mean, the video is very shocking. You know, again, we know this is happening, but people should look at it. You know, if you want to continue to contribute to industries like that, you should watch it. And I just applauded it. I was just so happy to see that. I think I became aware of it around the same time that I went vegan, so in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Because I kind of, you know, we didn't really have the internet the same way that we do now back then. I think we had it on like one computer at school or something. It wasn't the resource that it now is. But I knew that animal testing was a thing because even in high school, you know, they basically have a frog for us to dissect, which I refused to do. There was just me and one other person in my class that refused to do the dissection, And I said, it's not ethical and it's not necessary. As a 15-year-old in high school, what am I gaining by doing this? And even though, technology wasn't as advanced then as it is now, there was already digital simulations on computers that we could do. And I found one and I said, I'm doing this one instead. I'm not killing a frog for this. I'm not contributing to this. And we didn't do it. And yeah, I just became aware of how animals are just straight up commodities for so many people, for so many industries, and did a little bit of a deep dive onto how animals are used in, cosmetic testing, medical testing. And again, I understand that this was the best option a few decades ago, but as we all know, often the results that they get from testing on animals do not translate to humans anyways, because even though we share a lot of DNA with mice or with dogs or with chimps or with cats, it's still, we have different anatomies, we're different species, and it doesn't always work the same way. Just the same way that a human can enjoy a chocolate bar that would kill a dog. So we're different species. Things that might react badly on a dog or a rat might react just fine on a human. So a lot of the times the testing that's done isn't even applicable to humans. It's just a matter of procedure. They need to say they did that to get clearance, and then they get it and it's done. And so I'm happy to see that now more and more countries are banning animal testing for cosmetics. The big one that remains is China, but they're even making improvements in that sense. And I hope that one day we can just completely move past testing on animals for anything and get a more reliable form of testing, not only to prevent the torture for animals, but also so that we have better results. Testing on human cells in a petri dish, it's a little bit closer. Testing on, controlled studies with volunteers, of course, that's a very good way of testing it. I think it's just a matter of time before we move past that altogether. And I also hope that, again, maybe this is a little utopian, but it would be great if there could be just an open source database, so that if somebody does have to do the animal testing on a new chemical, a new product, a new medication, okay, one country does it, and then the rest of the countries have access and they can see it, and we don't need to go through that testing over and over again and have so many more casualties. Because if it works on a dog in, Portugal, it's going to work on a dog in the US. You know what I mean? In that sense, countries don't mean anything. So I do hope that the medical literature could be a global thing, just to reduce the amount of harm that we're doing until we're able to move to a point where no animals are needed in testing. I really hope so. I hope so. I meet people every day on tour that tell me, I went vegan 5 years ago because of you, or I went vegan 2 years ago because of you, and it changed my life. It saved my life. It was the best thing I ever did. It's such a great thing to live your life without the guilt of knowing that every time you swallow a piece of food, you have killed someone. I mean, that is extreme guilt. I don't know how meat eaters handle that, but I don't want to deal with that. I can eat food without thinking, oh my God, I killed someone for this. Like, how crazy is that? Just for a meal? Just for a meal when you have other options available? So I really hope we'll have a vegan world soon. It is growing. It's a growing movement. It's in the stage now where there's a lot of resistance, which is expected, and we always know that's how it goes. You start to gain a little bit of traction, people push back. We're in that stage right now, so none of that surprises me. I think it'll be difficult. Human beings are unfortunately extremely stubborn and hateful creatures, and I think it'll be extremely difficult to have a world where people do respect animals, nature, one another, no matter where we're from, what color our skin is, what gender we are, what language we speak, what species we are. But I do hope that more people can at least try to be more like that and more accepting, regardless of any differences that there might be. So I'm going to remain hopeful. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm going to remain hopeful on that one.